it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 591st. Welcome to the 591st edition of Energy Week with George Harvey. Tom Fennell is not here, and I kind of expect he might not return, but you know, I'm open to having him back if he wants to. At any rate, this show is taken from the website geoharvey.com, which I post every day, 10 to 15 articles relating to energy and climate change, just taken from the preceding day's news, sometimes the day before that if I find them late. You can visit that site, geoharvey.com, for if you want to see the articles that I list here, or you can go to the link that is at the bottom of the online identification for this show. We're starting on Thursday, September 12th, and we will go to Wednesday, September 19th. This show is being recorded on September 19th. Did I say 18th? It goes from Thursday the 12th to Wednesday the 18th. Today is September 19th, and it's being recorded in the impressive studio of Brattleboro Community Television. Okay, I'm going to start right at the beginning, and let's get a picture up here so you can see where we're going. These are solar panels. If you look between the rows of solar panels, you can see animals, and those animals are probably sheep. Sheep are very often found grazing among solar panels. They keep the grass down, which is something that has to be done. And by keeping the grass down, they also feed themselves. And a lot of grass that was actually bred to be sheep fodder, fresh food for the sheep, actually grows just as well in the shade of solar panels as it grows out in the full sun. So this is something that we're seeing more and more of. The title of this, I should say, this article comes from Renews. The title of the article is Neoen and Smart Energy Sign Oz Solar PPA. Oz, by the way, in case you don't know, is a name for Australia. And I tried to look this up. There seems to be some consideration that the Wizard of Oz might have been named that because Oz was a name used for Australia. In a later book, Dorothy has actually whisked off to Australia. Neoen, and I don't know how to pronounce that, Neoen, has signed a power purchase agreement with Smartest Energy for 50% of the output from its 440 megawatt Culcairn solar farm in New South Wales, which is one of Australia's states. The 4-year contract will enable Smartest Energy to meet the demand for renewable energy from businesses in the state. Its term starts in 2026. Now, of course, that means that the term of the contract is 2026, which means that the solar farm, which is 440 megawatts, 88 times as big as the one at the Brattleboro Waste District site, and that is supposed to be put in by when the date in 2026 when this comes online. Okay, our next item is from Power Engineering, And let's take a look at that. There we go. Solar system in the desert. And this picture came from the Bureau of Land Management. Feds approve $2.3 billion solar plus storage project is the title. The synopsis is the U.S. Bureau of Land Management approved a $2.6 billion solar plus storage project in Nevada. Libra Solar is a 700 megawatt solar and 700 megawatt 2.8 gigawatt battery project being developed by Arivia Power. This project is on 5,141 acres of land in Nevada, and it's owned by the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management. 700 megawatt battery means that this battery can produce a little more electricity than the old Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant produced. A 28 gigawatt battery will produce that for 4 hours if it's called to do so at full power. Now, obviously, if it's called to do so at half power, it can produce it for 8 hours. And so forth. 700 megawatts of solar is going to be probably what this solar farm produces many days of the year in Nevada, because Nevada's dry and doesn't have a lot of clouds. So this is a big project. Once it's up, of course, it's going to be able to produce electricity that costs a fraction, I'm going to say possibly half as much as the electricity we would be getting if Vermont Yankee were still open. And it will produce electricity for about a third of the cost of a new nuclear power plant. And this is something that's important to understand. You stop me on the street and I'll tell you how it works. The electricity from a solar plus storage system that is properly designed is going to be more reliable than nuclear power. I should explain that a little bit so people understand. NextEra Energy is by some metrics, the largest utility in the United States. And a little over 2 years ago, it produced a presentation for its stockholders showing how it was going to be investing in electricity, in electric generation capacity. And it gave its reasons why it is investing in solar, wind, and batteries, not gas, not nuclear. And in those reasons, it said that it gave the prices of electricity wholesale coming from these projected facilities for 2030. Those prices are really, really close to what Lazard produced for its projections for investors, banks investing and so forth. I think they're probably correct. And what they said was solar or wind plus what it called near firm battery storage would cost under 3.7 cents per kilowatt hour wholesale in 2030, and probably more than 2.5 cents. It said that the cheapest you could get nuclear from new plants would be 10.5 cents. And it just considers nuclear, and also nuclear plants take a long time to put in, and solar or wind plants take very little time to put in by comparison. So the cost of power is going to be a third perhaps of new nuclear. But the thing is, nuclear plants, the newest designs for nuclear plants are said to be capable of adjusting for load, but they're not capable of adjusting for load at anywhere near the speed that a battery can. So I should keep going here and go to the next item. So sorry that was so long. Our next item is from Renews, and this is a picture that's a little bit odd. It's a picture of equipment lying on the seafloor in practically purely clear water. There is a substation on the seafloor, and you can see above the substation on the right side, above the right side of the yellow substation, there's a wind turbine that is floating in the water. And this is, as I said, from Renews. The title is Aker to design MED wind substations. MED is Mediterranean. Aker Solutions won a contract to design underwater substations for MED wind, the 2.8 gigawatt Italian floating wind project, that is 2,800 megawatts. The developer, Renexia, signed a front-end engineering and design contract while the company for this with the company for the scheme off Trapani. Scheme, by the way, is used here to indicate a design, a project, and an intention. It doesn't have a negative connotation. It's on the seabed of the Strait of Sicily, which was obviously chosen because it is a place with a lot of wind. Okay. We are at Friday, September 13th, and we have a picture of transmission towers. We've used this picture before, and I'm not sure when. It might have been several years ago. This is from Clean Technica. Hurricane Francine knocks energy infrastructure offline, but not clean energy. The U.S. Energy Information Administration said that an extensive array of energy infrastructure had been knocked offline by Hurricane Francine. But one thing stood out. The infrastructure hit was to the grid. The infrastructure hit was to the grids and fossil fuels. Clean energy was not hit. So nuclear plants, gas plants, coal plants, what have you, and the transmission lines might have been hit, but the solar and wind was not. And so it could come online as soon as those transmission lines were capable of holding their electricity. That's good. You know, it tells you something about renewable energy. Anyway, the next thing that we have is a picture of a battery, and this particular battery is a sodium-ion battery as opposed to a lithium-ion battery. The article comes from MSN, and the title says, Energy Company announces plans for the nation's first sodium-ion battery gigafactory. A gigafactory, in this case and in many cases, is a factory that will turn out 1 billion watts, 1 billion units, $1 billion worth, whatever. Okay, the synopsis says lithium has been the go-to metal for battery production for more than 30 years. I'm a little bit tired of people saying things like that because nickel metal hydride has been used in flashlight batteries and things like that. However, you know, if you're talking about rechargeable batteries for cars and grid utility battery storage, yeah, it's been go-to. Sodium is much less expensive and more sustainable alternative. Natron, a U.S. battery maker, announced plans to invest $1.4 billion in a large factory to produce sodium-ion batteries. Now, I want to explain here, there's a reason why this has taken so long, and there's a reason why it's happening. People who have been following lithium are aware of the fact that it's expensive, that the supply is limited, that the supply comes from places that we don't necessarily like to deal with, that sometimes some lithium batteries, not all of them, have cobalt and nickel in them, and there are objections to the use of those materials. Lithium ferrophosphate batteries don't have the cobalt and nickel, but and lithium ion batteries can catch fire in ways that are difficult. In cars, there are systems that prevent the fires from happening and prevent them from even getting close to starting. Fires in EVs, electric vehicles, happen far less frequently than gasoline bursting from gas tanks and catching fire, which is similarly impressive to see burn. I've seen that happen, not had it happen in a car that I've been driving, but I've seen it happen a couple of times on interstate highways. Sodium has a chemistry that is very, very like lithium. The problem with sodium is it's relatively heavy. A lithium atomic weight of a lithium atom is 7. The sodium atomic weight for an atom is 23, so it's significantly heavier. It has a much larger diameter, and so sodium batteries have to be bigger. But sodium is what makes table salt salty, sodium and chlorine. It is sodium chloride that is table salt, and that's what makes the sea salty. And there's plenty of sodium in the world, and sodium ion batteries apparently just don't catch fire. But the problem is, because of the nature of sodium being heavy and being large atom, developing the first sodium ion batteries took time. So this is something that we're seeing developing, and it's about time that we've got this a system like this going. Now I'm sorry, I could go on about this, but I have to keep going on the show, or I won't finish it at a reasonable time. The next item is from Clean Technica, and what we have here is a picture of an inverter from Flex Inverter. Of a Flex Inverter, that is the name of the inverter, from GE Vernova. GE Vernova aims to cut utility scale solar costs with a new inverter. That's the title. The solar industry has been driving down costs step by step over the last decade. Now, solar power has become the most cost competitive option for new power plants, and solar power is the #1 source of new power capacity around the world. GE Vernova has made another step, and of course the other step is to produce this Flex Inverter 2000, which is a cheaper inverter system for utility scale, and that's a term that I don't like using, I think it's overused, but utility scale situation. So this is a utility scale inverter, and making it cheaper makes solar energy cheaper. And the fact that this was going to happen could be predictable, and was predicted because of Wright's law, which is the learning curve. As more and more units of something are brought online or put out to market or whatever, that's the methods used to make that thing mean that it becomes easier to make and the costs decline. And that's what's happened to solar power, wind power, and batteries. And nuclear power, possibly because of problems that have been discovered over the years. The Wright's law says that the price stays the same or goes up. The idea that nuclear power costs more and so forth has been the case. It may not be the case for small modular reactors, but I think it's still years before they appear. Okay, our next item is, we are up to Sunday, September 14th, and these are fields near Whitehaven. The article comes from CNN. Whitehaven, by the way, is on the Irish Sea in Cumbria, which is in northern England, not far from the Scottish border. The title of the article is UK Court Rules Government Plan to Build First New Coal Mine in Decades is Unlawful on Climate Grounds. Britain's approval of a new coal mine is unlawful, London's High Court ruled. The same court had ruled earlier that planning authorities must consider the impact of burning fossil fuels when they consider projects, not just what the immediate environmental impact of having those projects open is. Now, basically, this picture is a picture of the land which was going to become a coal mine, and I'm not sure what kind of coal mine that is, but most of the coal mines that I've seen opened in the last, I don't know how many years, were not underground mines. They were mines that involved cutting the top off of a mountain so the top is flat, and then taking off the coal that appears in a horizontal seam, and then putting 3 inches of soil on the mountain to restore the environment on the top of the mountain, and disappearing while the wind blows the soil away. Or digging a big hole in the ground, which is in some cases so big that when you're standing at one end, you really can't see what's going on at the other. There was a coal mine of that type that was to be opened in Germany a number of years ago. I remember we talked about on the blog the fact that that was going to open a long time ago, and that mine was going to be twice as big as the island of Manhattan. So everything in an area that was a little bit big, more than that size, because you have to be able to get around the periphery of it, material that was around that size of the island was going to be cut down, and material which was above on the ground that had to be removed included whole forests and villages that had dated back to the Middle Ages, and they were just to be bulldozed. Now, I haven't really followed that particular mine. The decision to allow it to be brought online was undertaken at just about the time that mines of that type, that coal in general, and the brown coal that was used for that in that area that was to be used were no longer being brought online in Germany. So I don't know what the situation with that is, but that is how that kind of thing happens. Okay, we're going to a new vision. This particular article comes from Gulf Business. The solar array is just, this was an array apparently that came with it. It is marked in such a way that I don't think that it was something that I found. Gulf Business. The title is AMEA Power to Develop Africa's Largest Solar PV Project. AMEA Power, based in Dubai, will invest $800 million more in 2 renewable energy projects in Egypt, boosting the promise of clean energy in that country. The projects include a 1,000 megawatt photovoltaic plant and a 600 megawatt hour battery system for the largest solar PV and battery project in Africa. So this system is going to be about half again as much capacity as the Vermont Yankee nuclear power plant. And when that battery is delivering electricity online as fast as it can, I don't have the information here, but nevertheless, this is a significantly large system. And it, as it says here, is the largest system in Africa of its type. Okay. Next, we have a picture of the Supreme Court, and the article is from The Guardian. The title is "Big Oil Faces a Rising Number of Climate-Focused Lawsuits, a Report Found." Big Oil is facing more and more climate-related focused lawsuits as communities demand accountability for losses due to the industry's contributions to climate change, according to a report. Oil Change International and climate research organization Zero Carbon Analytic published the report together. We have a lot of lawsuits against Big Oil. It is clear, according to materials that have been put online, made available recently, that the first warnings to an American president, maybe they weren't the first warnings, but they were among the earlier warnings, happened with Lyndon Johnson in the White House. That's 60 years ago, roughly. And the things that the Big Oil was able to know apparently included that climate change was going to be a serious problem. But they decided that making money was more important than dealing with climate change. So they apparently just rigged the system so they could keep producing electricity, keep producing cars, keep producing fuel for those cars, for houses, for industry, and so forth, as long as they possibly could. And even though they knew people would die as a result, people would get sick as a result. So here you're seeing the result of that, which is that they are being held to task. And as they are held to task, they're going to have greater and greater pressure put on them. Honestly, I think it's going to break at some point. I just hope that the problems that they have come soon enough. I hate to say that people's problems come soon enough to enable the rest of us to deal with the problem of climate change, because the damage that Big Oil and so forth has brought about, in my opinion, is far greater than the amount of money that they've made, even over the years. And we don't know how far that's going to go. Okay, we're up to Sunday, September 15th, and we have, what do we have? I've got a runaway computer. That's what I have. There we go. This is a picture of a coal mine, the type of thing that I mentioned earlier. In the lower left-hand side of this, maybe a little less than a quarter of the way from the bottom to the top, and a little less than a quarter of the way from, well, maybe a fifth of the way from left to right. You can actually see a truck on that, what appears to be a highway. It's actually a long, long ramp that goes down to the bottom of the coal mine so it can pick up coal and move it back up to the top. This is from Xinhua, Chinese organization. The title is Coal to Green Transmission, Redefining China's West to East Power Transmission. That mine, by the way, is in Inner Mongolia. there's a country called Mongolia, but it's actually only about half of Mongolia. The other half is part of China. The country called Mongolia is Outer Mongolia, and the area that is in China is Inner Mongolia. And honestly, if I were living in Outer Mongolia, I'd be very worried about the Chinese and the Russians and what they're doing to people around them. The synopsis for this article says, in northwest China's Gobi Desert, 2 neighboring power plants testify to the country's ongoing clean energy transition. The first is one of China's largest thermal power stations. It is, this sentence boggles the mind. It is supplied with over 20,000 tons of coal each day. The other is fueled by sunlight, and obviously the use of coal is 20,000 tons a day? Really? And I tried looking that up to find out if it was correct, and I did not find anything that would argue against that, aside from the fact that it boggles my mind. So, you know, there it is. And speaking of minds that are boggled, the next item, and we are still at Sunday, is from the BBC. And the title of this article is Study Reveals Link Between Heat Waves and Dementia. Now, I have no indication that the woman you see sitting in that wheelchair has got dementia. I just want to make that clear. A pioneering study revealed health risks posed by long-term weather extremes in the UK as the effects of climate change intensify. It shows that prolonged exposure to extreme heat can be linked to cognitive decline, kidney disease, skin cancer, and spread of infectious diseases. Well, in Vermont, we know that heat waves, warmer weather, I should say, this is not necessarily heat waves, but warmer weather is associated with the coming of Lyme disease into the state, which I think the first Lyme disease diagnoses were in 1995. And before that, there may have been Lyme disease. It was undiagnosed, but it was not something, those symptoms did not appear. Lyme disease has been known about for a long time. Lyme disease was first described before the United States signed the Declaration of Independence. So if you hear a theory, a conspiracy theory saying that the CIA invented Lyme disease or something, that is something that I consider just a little bit suspect, because I don't think the CIA has been around that long. Anyway, there are problems with heat. I lived in England and I never saw what I would call hot weather. I lived in a house in Devon, which is on the southernmost coast. It's on the English Channel. I wasn't on the channel, but I was inland by a short enough distance that I could have bicycled to the channel if I wanted to. The temperature in our house never went above 65 degrees. Now the house was made of stone, so it was naturally kind of carried the cool of the night in through the day and so forth. Okay, our next item is from ABC News, and what we have here is a picture of wildfires, a wildfire in Brazil. The title is Brazil Experience. By the way, ABC News is American Broadcast Corporation. Brazil is experiencing record-breaking wildfires as a persistent drought affects the Amazon rainforest. Over 50,000 wildfires. That's a number that sits right up there with 20,000 tons of coal a day. Over 50,000 wildfires are active in Brazil. ABC News was told by authorities and the Igarape Institute, a think tank that focuses on emerging security and development issues. The Amazon is one of the most heavily affected regions. It's also one of the largest and most important rainforests in the world. Okay, I'm going to step right on. I think you understand the implications of that. Our next story is from Monday, September 18th, and it comes from Interesting Engineering. Let me put this graph up. This is the declining cost of solar photovoltaics. Actually of silicon photovoltaics, although most solar PVs are silicon, and most silicon PVs are solar. I don't know of any that are not, but okay. The title here is China's Longyi sets world record for the highest tandem solar cell efficiency at 34.6%. I was blown away when I saw that. Longyi, a Chinese solar module maker, announced that it has achieved a remarkable power conversion efficiency of 34.6% in two-terminal tandem perovskite solar cells. The US DOE's National Renewable Energy Laboratory actually verified this result, so apparently it's true. Now, current efficiency of solar modules, if you could just go out right now and buy them, is a bit over 20%. So 34.6% is a huge improvement. And you could get, well, what this says is you could get a house fully powered by a solar array that's less than 2/3 of the size of what it would need with earlier PVs. Now, this is not going to be on the market today or next year probably, but we'll have to see how long it takes. In the area of solar cells and so forth, it usually takes less time than it takes for most other things. So we'll see how long it takes. Speaking of solar cells, we have an item here, which is from Clean Technica. It's testing a solar cell, which is not the one that in the article. This one is, the one in the picture is just a randomly chosen solar cell. The title is, U.S. solar panel manufacturing capacity grows nearly fourfold under federal incentives. Solar module manufacturing capacity in the United States exceeds 31 gigawatts, a nearly fourfold increase since the Inflation Reduction Act became law in 2022. That is to say, in 2 years, the amount of solar cells that the capacity that we have in this country for manufacturing solar cells has more than doubled. In 2 years under the IRA, the solar industry has added 75 gigawatts of new capacity to the grid. We are making solar cells 4 times as fast as we ever did before, and we're putting them on the grid at a far more rapid speed. So that's what that means. And the implications of that are important. We are moving away from petrochemicals and in general fuels that burn, let me put it that way, and moving toward renewable energy at a very rapid speed. Okay, the next picture, this is an interesting picture. It says hauling uranium ore in the Pilbara. Okay, the Pilbara is in northwestern Australia. It's in the northwest of Western Australia, which is in the northwest of Australia, because Western Australia is exactly what it says, in the western part of the country. This is from Renew Economy, And the title is Australia's Most Fossil-Dependent Economy Opens Up to Renewable Energy Highways. And by the way, if you count the axles on that vehicle, which is, it looks to me clearly like it's an articulated vehicle with 3 trailers. It looks to me like that vehicle has 4 tires on each of what, 5, 10, 13 axles. So this is a lot of tires. This is over 50 tires that you're seeing here. And then you've got, that doesn't count the steering wheels, the steering tires. The Pilbara region of northwest Western Australia is opening up to create up to 4 renewable energy superhighways. The land is the world's biggest iron ore mining province and Australia's most fossil fuel dependent economic region. It is dependent on fossils. There's no question. This area is dependent on fossil fuels. However, when they get charging stations in, and when they get solar generation, wind generation, and batteries put in place, that is going to disappear very quickly. If you can imagine the problem, think about the fact that you've got a village that's got 200 people in it, and the next village over from it is 100 miles away. If you're going to provide electricity for that village with 100 people, you're going to have 100 miles of electric cable, and that cable is full of copper, and that copper is expensive. It's already there, but it would probably be cheaper to cut the cable down and give everybody a lithium-ion battery to stick on the side of their house from Tesla, and the Australians know that. And the same thing is true of driving vehicles around. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, September 17th, and we have a picture of a CATL facility, which is all, you know, there it is, the sign, all covered with Chinese characters, except for a line that says, Contemporary Amperex Technology Thuringia GmbH. This is obviously a facility in Germany. This article is from Clean Technica. The title of this particular article is New EV Battery Has 15-Year, 930,000 mile expected service life. 15 years, 930,000 miles. We've come to the point where you can buy an electric car. You probably never have to worry about the car's battery wearing out. CATL, the largest battery battery producer in the world, and that is, by the way, CATL is based in China, but though this plant is in Germany, has a new battery it says has a service life of 1.5 million kilometers, which is 930,000 miles, or 15 years. It sounds to me like that is going to be a guarantee, where it's a distance or a time. But, you know, this battery is not for sale yet. We'll see how soon that happens. It is something that shows development, though. Electric vehicles are getting more reliable as time goes by. They're already far more reliable than gasoline-powered vehicles. The cost of maintenance on them is lower. The cost of fuel is far lower. I read today about a boat by Candela, which was what do those boats cost that lift out of the water? It had crossed the Baltic Sea from Sweden to Finland using electricity that cost about 5% of the cost of the gasoline to power a similar boat over the same distance. There you've got it. Okay, we have a picture of, whoops, let's get it. solar panels. And we have an article from oilprice.com. The title is Banks Pledge $386 billion to support India's renewable energy industry. Financial institutions have pledged a total of $386 billion in investments to help India boost its renewable energy. Renewable Energy Minister Prahlad Joshi said, India aims to have 500 gigawatts of renewables capacity installed by 2030. It has 153 gigawatts now. Now, a gigawatt of renewable capacity is not the same as a gigawatt of nuclear capacity. Nuclear capacity has a capacity factor of about 90%. Renewable energy has a capacity factor of about 30%. So, and possibly less, 25%. It depends upon what the ratio is between solar and power and wind power. But at 25% compared to 100% for nuclear, it's still got this 500 gigawatts would compare to 125 nuclear power plants by 2030. The nuclear power plants, when they come online, I see them in the news, one by one. They're coming in dribs and drabs. The solar and wind energy is coming very, very rapidly, and it is near firm. It is, most of it comes with battery backup. I shouldn't say it is near firm, but it sounds like it's near firm, given the descriptions of the arrays that are being put up. Okay, the next item is from CNN. And what I have is a picture of a storm. The title is A 1 in 1,000 Year Rainfall Event from an Unnamed Storm Floods Homes in North Carolina. And by the way, I saw a discussion about this storm in the news today, saying that this storm had passed away from North Carolina. So this particular article came out as the storm was happening in North Carolina. Unnamed storm. Floodwaters surged into homes, stranded vehicles, and forced rescues in coastal North Carolina as a tropical storm-like system dumped historic amounts of rain in just hours. At one station, 18 inches of rain fell in 12 hours. Imagine 18 inches of rain falling in Brattleboro. Of course, we're far enough inland that the chance of half that happening is very low. On the other hand, we've had half that. Across the river, Alstead got an incredible flood that resulted from 8 inches falling in about 12 hours. I remember that rain very well, and it was really, really bad. Before the last time I went through Alstead, before that storm, there was a cornfield across the river when I drove into town from New Hampshire. The time after that, the cornfield was not there. The soil under the corn was not there. The only thing that was there was a field full of stones. The situation that we're getting into with historic rain events is really a serious problem. Okay, our next item, we're up to Wednesday, September 18th. For the next item, we have a picture of an O2 tidal energy turbine. And this comes in from Orbital Marine Power. That picture does. The title of this article from Offshore Engineer magazine is Lloyd's Register to certify world's largest tidal energy turbine. Lloyd's Register, a renewable energy certification body with a scope in marine energy, has signed an agreement with Orbital Marine Power to start the certification process for the world's largest tidal energy converter. The converter is rated at 4.2 megawatts. So that machine that you see there is a 4.2 megawatt energy converter. It's in effect a pair of turbines that are on a single platform. And if you look at the ends of that platform, the bow and the stern, and there really isn't a bow and stern, I don't think, because I think that converter is held in one place and the water will flow from either the bow or the stern. You can see at both ends of the vehicle there are cables going to it, and those cables include, I believe, cables that position it. And in this particular case, the water is coming from the left and going to the right. There's not a lot of there's not a lot of wake from this thing. You can see where the blades of the turbines are. They're red and below the water level. Anyway, we should go on, and we have a picture of, we have a picture of Oslo, and the title of the article comes from Clean Technica. The title of the article is "There Are Now More Fully Electric Cars on Norwegian Roads Than Gasoline-Powered Cars." Norway's Road Traffic Information Council reported a milestone. The number of fully electric vehicles on Norwegian roads is now greater than the number of gas cars. Its report says over 1 million gas cars have been taken off Norwegian roads in the past 20 years. Well, this is something that we could see was coming, because fully electric cars are in excess of 90% of the cars sold. In fact, the last time I saw, I think they were over 95%. And the other 5% is made up of hybrids, diesel, gasoline cars. I think gasoline cars might have been less than 1% of the cars that were brought in. This is funny because Norway is a rich country because of the oil and gas that comes from the North Sea. It has platforms extracting oil and gas from the North Sea. And yet it is moving away from that. And this is something that is happening not just in Norway, but in other countries in that region. A company called Danish Oil and Natural Gas changed from oil and natural gas completely to the point where it is now just manufacturing and selling and installing and owning wind turbines. So that is, what's the name of the company? I don't remember the name of the company. I would if I hadn't just talked for an hour. Okay, the last item is from Renews, and the title for this is "Berlin backs 2.7 gigawatts of onshore wind in tender." The latest German onshore wind tender has been oversubscribed, attracting almost 3 gigawatts, according to results of the tender by the Federal Network Agency. 230 bids totaling 2,723 megawatts were successful. By the way, one bid was rejected. I don't know why. One bid was rejected. And that means, well, let me read the next sentence. The bids exceeded the 2.5 gigawatts needed for the country's annual expansion target. And of course, what you see there is just onshore wind turbines. Those turbines, by the way, are very big, and they are nowhere near as close together as they look. I don't know how tall they are, but you know, they could be one size, or they could be another size twice as big, and you just don't know unless you're given the information. Anyway, the point is that they had 2.5 gigawatts they wanted, and they got bids for 2.723 gigawatts. So what they did was they just accepted the 230 bids totaling that amount and rejected one. Germany has been under a great deal of pressure from Russia because of the war in Ukraine. Now, Germany could have accepted the idea that Russia would invade the Ukraine and take it over, but they weren't willing to do that, as most countries in Europe were not. And the result of that has been that the Russians, who had been getting 2/3 of their foreign trade from the sale of oil and gas and coal, now they're going to India, they're going to China instead of going to Europe to sell gas, to sell coal, to sell oil, and they are selling coal to China. Anyway, Germany has decided that they are not going to put up with Russia doing this, invading Ukraine, so they've been reducing the amount of fossil fuels that they are consuming faster than they would have otherwise. I can understand that. You know, they should be reducing the amount for the world anyway, but what they would be doing if they continued to accept oil and natural gas and coal from Russia would be to spend a lot of money they don't have to spend supporting the Russian side of the war, supporting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Anyway, we are up to the end of the program, and we have a wish for you, which is that you have a marvelously fine week. So we hope you're all well, and we hope you stay that way. Goodbye. See you next time.